Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. On behalf of everyone at Rev.io, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. I'm Delaney Dobkowski, Rev.io's Marketing Execution Manager. Before we begin the presentation, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. First, audio will automatically come in through your computer speakers. However, if you're having trouble using your speakers or unhappy with the quality of the sound, you can also dial in via phone number and access code listed on the screen. Second, a recorded version of this webinar will be emailed to you within 2 weeks. Third, we will be having a Q&A session at the end of the event. Please submit your questions via the Q&A control panel at any point during the live presentation. For those of you joining us, welcome. Today from AT&T Partner Exchange, Matt Palmer, Director of Mobility and IoT Product Marketing Management, Michael McCrary, Director of Sales and Business Development, and Jeff Zimmerman, Senior Account Manager of Sales and Business Development, will be discussing how to master your mobility strategy, IoT development, and prepare for 5G. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Matt, Michael, and Jeff. Matt is a veteran director with extensive experience in mobility, IoT, business, retail, sales, operations, product, and marketing, and has been with AT&T for 20 years. He's a graduate of Bowling Green State University, and he currently resides in Plano, Texas. Michael currently serves AT&T Partner Exchange and its customers in a business development and recruitment leadership role. He has been with AT&T for 22 years, leveraging his extensive experience in network installation, security, cloud services, and consulting services. His degrees include an Associate's of Applied Science in Electronics and a Bachelor's in Technical Management and Telecommunications. He currently works in Plano, Texas. Jeff is an experienced market and business development manager with an extensive background in the telecommunications industry. He currently works at the AT&T Partner Exchange headquarters in Plano, Texas, where he applies his expertise in managed services, VoIP, enterprise software, and sales. Jeff has been with AT&T for 17 years and is a graduate of San Diego State University. Now I'll turn it over to Matt, Michael, and Jeff.
Hey, Delaney and team, thank you for the opportunity here today. Just kind of looking back on our relationship with Rev.io, we've got over 50 joint partners. Really came together over the last three to 5 years, just really trying to facilitate our partners having success and really meaning back to what we came up with the name AT&T Partner Exchange, truly exchanging information and helping our solution providers go to market. As Delaney mentioned, I've got 22 years with AT&T. Really the last 7 years have been focused on the AT&T Partner Exchange program. As this slide kind of depicts here, really unique reseller program, puts you in the driver's seat. You own the customer experience from tier 1 support to sales to billing, while leveraging the value of the AT&T network. And kind of unique too, there's multiple different avenues that you can do business with AT&T. But through this relationship, you also can do co-branding with us. So you're able to leverage the AT&T brand name along with your name and go out and sell unique integrated solutions to your customers. As I kind of mentioned, as the slide depicts here, control the complete life cycle. You interface with us, and then you also interface direct with your end customers. Co-branded solutions, you're responsible for tier 1 support. There are many self-service tools out there to help facilitate driving a better customer experience. Through the channel, able to grow revenue with competitive offers, and again, you own the end customer relationship. Over 700 program members to date and received over 130 awards. Delaney, will you move to the next slide? So as this program was created, what we wanted to go to market with was leveraging the AT&T assets from IoT, mobility, network services that would include, DIA services, layer 2 switched Ethernet, long-haul Ethernet, IP broadband, and also taking our cybersecurity product. And as this slide depicts, really taking the best of AT&T, but then on the right side of this slide is really taking the best of our solution providers, the value-added services that you bring to the marketplace to build one integrated solution to go out there and focus on business customers and driving an excellent customer experience. Next slide, please. Kind of mentioned a little bit of this, but the portal itself, we really wanted to create an opportunity for our customers to integrate with us from a digital perspective. The portal will allow you to quote and order with a click of a button. There's a lot of great resources inside the portal, from marketing resources, fiber list, rate cards. Everything is rate card driven. So as you log into the portal and you're able to quote services, you know exactly what your price point would be with AT&T. A lot of self-servicing tools as well on the network side, IoT, mobility services. A lot of integration back into our service management team on delivery, billing, and assurance. And then last but not least, on self-service, a lot of program materials from a training perspective. Many of the joint partners that are on the call here today, I think you've probably seen, we're hosting almost a monthly webinar on trying to facilitate training, whether it's on products or how do we go to market or service delivery or assurance. And we're putting a lot of focus and effort in the self-service training. From an operations support perspective, what makes us unique for some, the ones that are able to consume our application program interfaces to deal directly with us from a machine-to-machine perspective. On the mobility front, we give you access to ordering tools called Opus. We have a whole support center guide on how you interface with us from service delivery, maintenance, and billing perspective. A lot of other great tools, just managing your account through a tool we call Business Direct. And then last but not least, being able to see your orders in real time and what's going on with the orders. From a developmental funds perspective, makes the program unique as well, depending upon the level of partnership you have with AT&T in the program. You actually have access to some developmental funds. That's really what's kind of kicked off the Rev.io relationship over the last several years, is being able to leverage some of those funds to help facilitate our partners getting into the market to be able to bill and tax and provide their customer support. A lot of stuff there too, from a direct marketing, sales incentives, automation, and then billing and regulatory compliance. Again, my name is Michael McCrary. On my team as well as Mr. Jeff Zimmerman. Jeff has responsibility for recruitment of new partners into the program. He will be on the call from a Q&A perspective and will be able to answer any of your questions for those of you that are not in the program today. As we get to transition over, I want to take the moment to introduce my peer, Mr. Matt Palmer, who's the Director of Mobility Product and Solutions, and he's going to kind of walk us a little bit through 5G. Matt?
Great. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. And good afternoon or good morning to everyone, depending on your time zone. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you about our mobility platform, 5G, and also going to talk about our ecosystem, both from a network perspective and a partner perspective. What you see on the slide there is probably something you've seen before, and I realize I've got a mixed audience. Some of you are already familiar with our program, partners in our program out there. Others you may not. So hopefully for those who've seen pieces of this, we'll get something new out of it today. But really, as we talk about ramping up to 5G, each one of these generations or Gs has really lasted about a decade. And all the prior ones, it's all been about speed. It's all about speed and coverage with the map. And when it's with 5G, it's really all about experience. Latency, reliability, and still speed in the map matter. But speed's no longer going to be enough given the massive explosion of devices. While the speeds are going to certainly improve dramatically, as we're still early in that evolution of where it's going to go with 5G, unlike past generations where it was just a step change, a rip and replace, this is a complete evolution. So in terms of 5G, from our perspective, we really view the cornerstones of it being ultra low latency, ultra reliability, massive IoT connectivity, and ultra high speeds. So it's a lot more than just speed with this generation. We've already launched standard mobile offers. We've been working with customers and focused on realizing the capabilities of 5G in a variety of use cases today through trials and targeted customer campaigns. We also leveraging our complementary technologies in there, like low power wide area networks. Low power wide area, or LPWA, as you know, everything's an acronym around here, is really comprised of the LTE-M and the NB-IoT platforms, and those have been deployed nationwide in our licensed spectrum. Benefits there: longer battery life, lower cost hardware, reduced module size, and just easy out-of-the-box connectivity for deployment. But before I go too deep into IoT, let me stop and provide some context on what we view as the 3 pillars of 5G on the next slide. When you go ahead and you look at it, it's pretty simple. We think about 5G as the mobile aspect of it, our fixed wireless offers, and then the edge. Mobile is pretty simple. This is the easiest one to explain. These are the mobile devices that you've known. This is the typical part from the other Gs, and we already have multiple 5G devices out there. Samsung has several of them: the Galaxy Note 10 Plus, the Galaxy Note S20, 20 Plus, and S20 Ultra, all 5G. They've got the S10 5G. There's a Nighthawk out there, and those are all 5G and 5G Plus capable. And if you're not sure what I mean by 5G and 5G Plus, I'll cover that here in a little bit. And then also from a 5G perspective, LG has the V60 ThinQ. So the mobile pieces are coming as the network evolves. So, continue to expect that network to expand, the devices to become available. Clearly, there's been, while I mentioned multiple Samsung devices, there's another big phone player that really hasn't announced their official date, but lots of scuttle as far as when that'll be available. As clearly the entire device ecosystem that wants to continue to be viable has to have a 5G offer. But let me talk about fixed next, because fixed is a little bit different. Even though 5G's, it's tied to mobility, we understand that customers have fixed locations and they have a need for fixed wireless. And so in order to meet those needs, we put together a plan set called AT&T Wireless Broadband. And of course, it's got an acronym, AWB. So I'll reference it as AWB, but AWB provides unique data plans for customers that really lets them choose between multiple speed-based price plans from 8 meg speeds to 100 meg speeds at this time on the fastest nationwide network, LTE and 5GE, without worries of overages. This is different for mobility. That's kind of a mobile rate plan that feels more like a traditional legacy network type pricing. But that's why it makes AT&T Wireless Broadband an excellent solution, because when there's accelerated demand for connectivity in remote or rural areas, think about brand new locations or expansion in an area where fiber is still being built out, or the need for redundancy at scale for business critical applications, AWB customers can enjoy predictable pricing without needing to worry about overage charges, so long as that it's being managed appropriately. And part of managing that business essential traffic appropriately is that these plans also come with AT&T Fast Track. You may know that by its former name called Dynamic Traffic Management, but that's a class of service improvement that's included on this rate plan. The most exciting part about AT&T Wireless Broadband is how it really puts customers on the fast path, because these plans right now are in place from a 5G evolution perspective, and that's the first step to 5G, and that's nationwide. And it's really based upon where 5GE is available, and then the compatible speed availability in that area. But as that grows, that's going to continue to expand, because these as routers come up to speed, there's not 5G, a robust amount of 5G routers out there today, but there are 5GE capable routers, a few, and they're expanding. And they'll come ready to work 5G evolution, and will easily scale nationwide 5G once it's available. When you think about fixed wireless, what are some of those use cases that come to mind? If you're kind of struggling for that, think retail. That's point of sale. It's near real-time inventory. Think manufacturing. That can be remote operations or drone security, or in the healthcare field, it could be a mobile clinic or blood bank. In the finance sector, it could be something as simple as ATMs or a bank in a store. Industry solutions, just the new site expansion or the need for some robust failover. And public sector, it could be digital road signs or wind farms. So the need for this is pretty robust out there, and it's growing quickly, and we're really excited about the fixed wireless opportunity within 5G. The final pillar I'll talk about is edge. And what is edge? Everyone keeps, what is the 5G edge? And the best way I can explain edge really is in terms of one of the the simplest aspects of it. I'll talk about kind of a use case area of edge, and then after that, I'll follow with kind of the network view on bringing it to the edge. One of the most common use cases right now is called multi-access edge computing, or MEC. As everything goes, it's an acronym. And in order to enable, MEC is enable cellular traffic for local routing and processing on the edge. Okay, great. What does that mean, Matt? Well, it leverages cellular. Today, LTE, ultimately it'll be 5G. And what it does is provides low latency, high bandwidth solution for customers who want more control and flexibility at the edge. So it enables the customers to kind of break out or peel off user data and keep it local on premise for quicker processing and computing, as well as security. That's a great solution for industries that handle highly secure information on a large campus or a manufacturing plant. They have a dense amount of devices for IoT perspective that could benefit from quicker response times and that lower latency. In addition to being scalable, MEC delivers control at the app level. So businesses can really decide what they want to stay local and then what can go ahead and run the standard route. So MEC's already deployable today using LTE. And the goal is to create a path for our customers to get 5G. And we have many 5G use cases already out there, and those have been published and PR'd in joint concert with those companies, hospitals, military bases. There's lots of examples. But the environment created with the MEC solution is really focused on the user experience. It keeps that cellular traffic local, reduces latency, increases the stability, which really is ideal for an immersive, innovative tech. Like it could be used with interactive signage, think AR, VR applications. It could be used retail robotics. It could be with manufacturing with a quality control asset management. Think about finance surveillance or healthcare with a VR patient comfort solution. And even more publicized stuff like industry solutions. Think stadium venue like AT&T Stadium, which has deployed 5G for the fan experience, or used by the NBA in live broadcasts, as the first one was done last summer. So there's a lot of opportunities there. So the future is pretty limitless. The MEC specifically focuses on cellular at the edge, and that's where latency makes all the difference. So we have a dedicated 5G Center of Excellence team that's ready to talk about exploring next-gen use cases across all verticals with customers. But ultimately, we're just scratching the surface on 5G possibilities. So let me take a look with you here on the network side of what moving edge closer looks like on the next slide. So this is something we refer to as kind of the six-way match. And some of you all may have had the opportunity to hear a guy much, much smarter than me about 5G networks named Todd Zeiler speak on this. And this is his explanation, and I think it's the best one we have out there. Really, when you look at taking it to the edge, what does that mean? And for us, the most important piece of it is just the latency and how you measure that latency. And the latency's got to be measured from that device right there by the end user all the way out to the content and then back. It's that round trip end-to-end latency that you have to measure. And so bringing things to the edge is significant there, because what you look at there is at step one, what you're looking there is the devices, all the devices that connect. And spectrum right there is just an enabler. Steps 2 and 3 is your software and hardware at the cell site. In step 4, what you're looking at is the transport from the central office there. And then step 5 is our AT&T mobility core. And then lastly, you get out there to the applications and content. And what we're doing here with 5G and bringing the edge closer is you advance ahead, what you'll see is that we're bringing the applications and the core, and we're bringing that closer, first right out to the CO, and then ultimately, from a private solution, bringing the edge right out to the business. So Delaney, if you advance forward, there will be a little animation that goes along with that. And that'll take that right out to the edge. And ultimately, that's what we're talking about in moving the edge closer, because when you reduce that distance, that cycle time, it has a dramatic, that less distance has a dramatic impact on improved latency and really supports that additional security with that on-premise solution like MEC, like I just spoke about on the prior slide. So that's what moving to the edge looks like, but let's take a broader view of network convergence on the next slide. So on this slide here, as this expands, one of the things I need to call out is that for some reason, and this isn't just because of the lunchtime presentation, every time we talk about this, we keep talking about food examples. So, sometimes we use a pizza example, sometimes a chocolate chip cookie. I think today I'll go with the peanut butter example. So that green area you see out there is kind of the, think about that as LTE, and that's creamy peanut butter out there. And that's LTE advanced speeds, kind of 400 to 600 megs. And as we go ahead and add our 5G millimeter wave spectrum, that's going to come in there. You got two different flavors of peanut butter there with the speeds in that LTE advanced. But as we go ahead and add our 5G millimeter wave, the addition of these sites within the peanut butter kind of become the chunky part of the peanut butter. And as you Delaney, hit the next button, what you'll see is those chunks will pop on up there. And so where you got the 400 to 600 meg speeds out there in the LTE advanced 5G evolution space, within there, you've got those chunks that really can reach speeds, at 1 gigabyte. And while they don't travel very far, about 1,000 feet or so, depending really at 100 yards or 300 feet, depending on what you're looking at, there's not much penetration, but incredibly high speeds. And those will, pop up over time. But part of this with the launch of our new radio core, and it's really an evolved packet core for 5G, what happens is that chunky peanut butter starts to evolve over time, and those as it evolves will increase speeds from 1 gig. We've tested at 2 gig. And back on slide 1, you saw that there's opportunity in this generation of 5G for the speeds to even go further than that on the millimeter wave. And in fact, there's been some talk that reaching as high as 10 gigs per second. So, which just is astronomical. And, we've never thought we would ever need speed that fast, but every time we provide it some way or another, we keep using it. But that's not the only part of the story. Experience is really key as well for the users. And we need to rethink about how we move those data packets for the user experience, in thinking about those 5G devices. So, as an example, just thinking about the Dallas metro area, since that's where a lot of us are based. One of the things to think about is no matter how fast my car is, during rush hour, I'm still only going to be, I'm still impeded by traffic in normal rush hour days, and I can only get there faster by doing a couple of things. I could either expand the highways to get more lanes, which will make it more, make it easier to use, but pretty inefficient during the off hours because no one needs all of that highways. I could go ahead and move closer, which would definitely reduce my round trip and be a better, quicker commute. But the challenge there is real estate. I got to sell, I got to move, it gets expensive. And the other option is I could utilize, create, high occupancy vehicle lanes for the traffic on all those routes. And that's really kind of like the concept of network slicing out there, which really is, for the air interface, which this would allow priority of traffic. And, that would be relatively inexpensive, expensive given the spectrum is a finite resource, but we can chop it up and kind of create that kind of road real estate, if you will. The net is that we really need to kind of do all elements of all three of those things to provide a better experience for our customers in the 5G environment. When you look here, 5G sub-6 spectrum for us, think about that being about 400 meg peak speeds and 40 meg average. And we have stated that we'll cover the nation by mid-2020. We're already out there in 190 markets today. When you think about 5G plus, that's the millimeter wave spectrum. And again, as we said, 1 gig and 2 gig already in tests will evolve to 4 and theoretically up to 10 gig out there. It's really yet to be determined as this generation evolves. But think about 400 meg average speeds. And we've already deployed that to parts of more than 35 cities and continue to grow that. So as you're looking at that, whether we're thinking in terms of it being if that's a pepperoni pizza example, if it's a chocolate chip cookie example, if it's the creamy peanut butter with the chunks in there, whatever you want to do it, the idea is how do I get more pepperoni? Where do you get more speeds as that goes? So let me highlight how we'll accomplish that densification on the next slide. So as you think about how we evolve, part of this seems pretty familiar. And what you see there in the upper left in the macro domain is something everyone familiar with mobility is very familiar with. A good old macro site, they've been around forever. Those are typically your 100-foot plus towers out there that have just broadcasted signal. And what you can see is that, obviously in place for LTE Advanced 5GE today, and with LTE and 5G sub-6, this will move from 5G evolution to 5G with no millimeter wave targeted for that piece of the footprint as we densify. However, the micro domain, part 2, those are your sites that are in place out there, and you got the little picture that's kind of shows sites on top of buildings in a dense, dense city area. They're typically 30 to under 100 foot. And those are going to be out there with LTE 5G sub-6, but they're also going to support us from the millimeter wave 5G plus densification over time. Publicly, we've stated as a company that between macro and micro, we've got over 65,000 sites out there. And that's a number that continues to go up as we deploy and densify and have been able to build out more of the country with FirstNet as well. But you think about those two combined covering that. And then the third part in the lower left, the pico domain, that is really kind of the new real estate. This is what people typically think of with the small cell site on the street light or billboard or something like that out there, to where these are typically lower than 30 feet. They're going to mostly be in that 39 gigahertz or in the future 29 gigahertz spectrum, which what that means is those aren't going very far, 100 yards, 300 feet at a time, not a lot of penetration, but incredibly high speeds, especially when we can do carrier aggregation across multiple bands there. So that's part of the sweet spot in providing that densification of network and high speeds. And as those build out, we'll be adding more pepperonis to the pizza, if you will. And then the last area, talked about this briefly earlier, that indoor, that venue piece, that's really targeted millimeter wave, targeted edge compute using the MEC example as well, depending upon what makes sense. But that's loading up your stadiums, that's your airports, that's your high traffic, geographically, identifiable locations to build out those as well too. So all those are very custom solutions, but will complement as we continue to densify and add more slices of pepperoni to that pizza over time. So let's kind of put it all together here on the next slide. So AT&T network ecosystem. This slide really kind of summarizes what you need to know about 5G. Back to the food example, the dough, the sauce, and the pepperonis are what you're looking at moving across, and we're moving towards a pepperoni lover's pizza. I guess we shouldn't do these webinars over the lunch hour. But in the 5G evolution, that's our path forward with the first step towards 5G. And in the early days, 5G evolution, 5G speeds are going to be very much at parity. But ultimately, what you find is 5G evolution speeds are more than 2x faster than standard LTE. And that's a pretty nice experience. When you move towards 5G, that's the next generation, and that's going to increase even better latency. We're looking for more devices. Talked about some of them that are already available out there today, and we're going to have a whole lot more of that available by mid this year. And then ultimately, as those come in place, the 5G plus really is where we get to those ultra fast speeds and leveraging all that new spectrum and carrier aggregation to really create new iconic user experiences and enable venues and businesses in ways that we've never done before with all those use cases. So it's really a tremendous platform and evolution. Everyone knows they need a mobility. Everyone knows 5G. Everyone knows IoT. And for the solution providers that are already on this call that do business with us, they know this. And for those who don't or don't promote mobility, I guess the note I would have for you is in building a successful mobility resale offer with AT&T Partner Exchange, there's really 4 commonalities across our solution providers. One is they've defined strategy and dedicated resources for tier one support that Michael talked about earlier, or they contract a partner like Rev.io for those that they want to outsource and not manage themselves as they start to build the support structure in place to go sell mobility or add it as a complement to what they offer today. Secondly, they determine and procure devices that they want to offer, whether those are IoT devices or mobility devices, and then bundle those with our resale plans that we offer our partners. Thirdly, it's not just about having that basic bundle, but that bundled offer has got to include some kind of managed service or secret sauce from the solution provider. Whether it's device management, insurance, device replacement, stage forward inventory, data filtering and management, a single company to meet all those communication needs. They've got to have some kind of secret sauce in there. And then fourth, you're not mobility if you're not managing your data daily. And part of doing that means that you automate and scale. And those are things that we see all successful partners do as they evolve their mobility practice with us. Another route is if you're not ready to go into mobility or go into IoT directly today, but you have customers that are telling you, we're interested, we need support here, and you want to make sure you know that maybe you're not in a position to be able to offer it just yet, but you don't want to just let them work with anyone. Within AT&T Partner Exchange, we have an ecosystem partner program specifically in mobility for wireless WAN and for IoT. And there's kind of two models. One is a referral model, the other is a resale model. Regardless of which path you choose, you still own your customer. And the two models are simple. The referral model is very much like an agency type model. You, as the primary partner of that customer, refer to an ecosystem partner. That partner, you stay close to them as they work with your customer, and they will take care of setting up your customer as needed, communicate with you, bill your customer directly, and you get a referral for bringing them on in. Ultimately, you still own that customer. The other way is a resale model. Through this program, they can work with you and your customer to design the solution, but as you're the one-stop shop for that customer, if you're capable of rebilling that solution for the customer, that ecosystem partner will just bill you in that resale model and you bill your customer. Either way, you own your customer, whichever path you want to go, and then when you're ready to stand up mobility or IoT, you can always migrate that customer away at a later point. We have some really great customers, solution providers that are in this program that are experts in what they do, and they've been vetted on out and selected because they're really good at what they do. They've got the experience and are really good partners within the program as well. So with that, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about the AT&T story with 5G and the opportunity with Partner Exchange. And now I'll hand it back on over to Delaney.
Great. Matt, Michael, and Jeff, thank you guys so much for your time. Before we begin the Q&A portion of the presentation, I'd like to thank our audience for joining us today and review a few housekeeping items. The first reminder is that we're always interested in topics that you'd like to learn more about, so please submit your topic ideas in the Q&A box. In addition, the full webinar recording will be emailed to you within 2 weeks. Lastly, if you've submitted any questions during the presentation that don't get addressed in the live Q&A, we will be following up with you individually via email. Now I'd like to ask a few questions from our audience. Are there any adverse health effects related to the installation of new small cell antennas in my city or neighborhood?
I can take that. That is a question that we typically have gotten almost every single larger breakout that we've had with solution providers. There's been a lot of news about health effects in 5G. And what I can share with you is that radio frequency, RF, is emitted from devices all around us. Light bulbs, televisions, stereos, baby monitors, small cell antennas, like radios, Wi-Fi hotspots, wireless routers, all of it. They all emit low levels of RF. The FCC has set strict safety standards for RF exposure across the wireless spectrum, including that used for new technologies like 5G and millimeter wave. As wireless carriers, as you know, must follow these RF exposure limits. The FCC has concluded all antennas that meet its RF exposure limits have no harmful effect. So all of AT&T's wireless facilities, including small cell deployments, are designed and built to comply with those FCC exposure limits.
Can a customer activate a 5G device on a rate plan that isn't 5G capable?
I'll take that one as well. Yeah, the customers can do that. They would only have access to 5G if they are on a plan that includes 5G access. And then we've got a pretty robust eligibility list of that. But customers have to have a 5G capable device and be on a 5G plan and be in a 5G area to experience 5G. So that's based upon availability, and that's constantly expanding as well too.
If the device moves out of 5G coverage, what is the network experience?
That one is the customer is really going to move seamlessly between 5G, 5G evolution, 4G LTE networks without data interruption.
If I'm not a partner today with AT&T, what are the next steps to start a dialogue?
Hey, Delaney, this is Jeff. I'll take that one. There's an application page that we can send out an apply form, and basically just telling us who you are, what you do, if there's any programs you're associated with today, just to get a better understanding. And then once you fill out that application, I would engage with that solution provider and, determine if there's a mutual fit to join the program. And there's a process that entails from there.
Will AWB be available anywhere, some places that have slow fiber or wired speeds? And can we offer AWB to the CX instead?
AWB is going to be available. It's available everywhere that we sell wireless. The key is that the speed availability. So, for example, 5GE may show up in a particular area, and your customer have an interest in a 50 meg plan. However, in that area, say 20, 25 meg is only the average speed production in that area. While you could sign them up for that plan, they're really not going to get that benefit of that plan until more network development is done in that area. So it's really just based upon speed dependency, and as the network continues to evolve, becoming more robust and more available. So really a basic speed test is a great way to check and determine which AWB plan would be appropriate.
Is there anything within the 5G AT&T sphere that has not been available to Apex partners?
Yeah, I can take that. I mean, there's not every single product or service that AT&T offers is necessarily made available for resale. That could be contractual reasons based upon working with a third party that we've enabled. It could be price point considerations and that there's just not really enough margin for the product to make sense. But generally, every product or service that AT&T offers is reviewed onto whether there's a path to enable for resale that makes sense.
And then the last question is, when will we have 5G data rate plans?
Great question. The AT&T wireless broadband plans are kind of that first step on the path to 5G from a rate plan perspective. Those new plans with that kind of thought process are in development today. There's not a robust number of 5G devices today that are data-only devices, but as those come to market, we will have plans in place as well. That I can't give timing on those, but I can say they're in development, and they will be restricted based upon those familiar with the IMEI term. 5G, every device has an IMEI type, and they will be built specifically for 5G capable devices.
We've actually had a few more questions come in. On the last box on the slide you mentioned, additional spectrum. How is this managed, and is this dynamic based on regional saturation, or is this a fixed configuration?
Want to make sure I understood the question completely on there. That as far as the I guess you just restate that there as far as the additional spectrum, as far as how that's managed from when that's made available. I guess I'm trying to make sure I understand it.
It's how this is managed and if it's dynamic based on regional saturation or if it's a fixed configuration.
Yeah, I guess great question. I guess I'll try to make sure I answer it correctly for what you're looking for. The additional, as far as additional spectrum, as far as when, where that's deployed and how that's deployed, in general, that's normally deployed based upon really a network need of where we're at, based upon needing to deploy that additional spectrum, whether carriers are needed based upon demand and saturation of use, or needed to address speed concerns. And also, in managing spectrum, those may be familiar that we've also been building a concurrent network for FirstNet at the same time as upgrading our LTE network across the country for 5G as well. So, I mean, there's multiple factors in play there. So I would say it's a blended approach depending upon each specific area and the need and the use.
Does AT&T have the information of what the average speeds for AWB in certain areas are?
We provide our general coverage availability on att.com. I think it's Coverage Viewer that tells you which coverages are available depending upon the locale. However, where you find 5G coverage, we do not break that down by the speed. The reality is the network updates are happening all the time, and we don't give an actual estimated speed by lat longe or anything like that. That's just a basic on-site speed test, especially too because a lot of the requests come in for data solutions, and really it's a lot about where that fixed wireless unit's going to be deployed to test the speed right there specifically makes a difference. It's going to be in a building, which side of the building, near a window, in a closet, in a basement. You really want to test the speed so that you know if there's additional antenna needs to address it from the best coverage perspective.
Great. Well, thank you guys again for your time, and everyone enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Delaney.
Thank you as well. Appreciate it.
Thank you.